resources and then using their resources to get back into the game.
Even then, I mean, you'd have to have quite a few resources to do that. There would have to be a lot of money on the table for that to happen. And I think the scary part again, I think what this is doing is it's pointing out the many holes.
Yes.
It's pointing out the many holes and right now, the Republican Party is pointing out the many holes
Yes. Yes.
in
Yes.
their parties.
Okay.
But at the same time, while we're seeing all the different holes, we're losing rights every day. And you'll have those people who stand up there and they get sworn in and they're going to protect the Constitution, and they call the Constitution a living, breathing document. But it seems every day they are doing something that is unconstitutional.
Because corporations are people too. I mean, is that not what someone said, right? I think it was Mitt Romney who said that corporations are people as well. So we are a nation that's governed by the rule of law, but that includes corporations, the corporate structure being governed by the rule of law as well.
I don't know about that.
It sounded good, right?
Yeah.
But corporations are extremely important entities in our society.
Are they?
Well, we do live in what's the context? We live in a capitalistic system.
Mm-hmm.
Really, our economy is a mixture of various aspects of socialism and capitalism. No, it really. But people are saying on the surface is that, well, we have to have regional government because it saves us money.
Mm-hmm.
In cases if you have a city such as Flint or Detroit and they're coming out of an economic downturn, we're going to have to galvanize our resources from a regional perspective. So we're seeing all these different things taking place here, and it appears to be that the persons who have the gold are actually ruling in this day and in this climate and in this era.
Right, and I think that stuff like this it's able to happen because we keep forgetting the whole point of this. Everything our government is built off of, and that is we the people.
We the people. Okay.
Again, I can't stress enough about how much we throw away or give away power or give away authority to those who do not really have this power, do not really have this authority, time and time again.
Well, we place them in office, no doubt about that. We do elect them.
And we do elect them, but this is the thing. Once you elect an official, it does not take away your responsibility to still be educated and informed.
Absolutely.
It simply gives that person the responsibility to help you, to aid you in being properly educated and informed.
Yeah,
but it doesn't take away your own responsibility to do so, because again, as we see time and time again, we'll elect someone and then all of a sudden it's like, let's talk about this money agenda, meaning who's putting money into whatever agenda.
Into their pocket.
Right, and so we have to be careful to think that, okay, I went to the polls, I voted, now I'm done. You're not done.
Yes.
That's actually the start of your work.
Absolutely.
And so, and as we look at this situation with net neutrality and them repealing it, we have to look at what is my state doing now that this has happened.
Okay.
So we have a few states. Before it happened, there were, I believe, 11 states that wrote a letter saying, hold back on the vote. And those 11 states that wrote a letter saying hold back on the vote, these were letters from attorney generals. New York, Washington State, Illinois, Iowa, Oregon, Massachusetts, California, Delaware, D.C., Hawaii, 17 states, Kentucky, Maryland, Mississippi, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Virginia. And so now that this has happened and they've gone through with the vote, you have a few states, a few attorney generals who have gotten together and said that we will proceed to take this to court. And so that's attorney generals from New York, from Washington State, from Illinois, from Iowa, Oregon, and Massachusetts. Again, this just happened Thursday, so the other states that were in the letter, they could join in at any time. But if I did not call your state in saying that they have said that they were going to go through and pursue some action, call your attorney general.
Let me ask you this question then. What prompted these attorney generals from these various states to do that? What prompted them to do that?
What prompted them to do that? I think that it's very clear the dangers of taking away net neutrality. We just said that. You have big corporations, big service providers who are in charge of what you see and what you do not see, how fast it streams, how slow it streams. it's essentially, like you said, it's taking away our right to choose. It's taking away our right to be properly educated, taking away our right to properly understand. Because again, anytime one of these big service providers could get into it with another, with one of the people they're providing services to, they can easily decide, well, I won't stream, you can't stream off my service anymore, or I'll slow down your traffic, or I'll do something to mess up your business. It then takes away, again, that openness.
So could it be that this could be playing into the growing divide that is occurring in American society economically? For instance, let me just sketch something out here. I want to get your response from this, and our listeners and viewers as well. When you look at the educational system, for instance, you have some people who maintain that what is occurring in America now is a growing divide educationally, to the point where there is a two-tiered educational system that exists. So as we all know, if you're going to public schools, if you're sending your children to public schools or whatnot, a strong tax base is necessary if you're going to have a solvent school district, if you're going to have a functioning school district that is able to deliver an effective educational product. However, in cases where you do not have a strong tax base, we're talking about money now, which funds and fuels education. Not the only thing, but it's one of the important components to putting together an effective educational system. Without it, what begins to happen? What happens is what is taking place throughout America with regard to her urban centers, whether it's Detroit, Flint, Saginaw, Chicago, New York, Newark, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and the list goes on and on and on. In these large urban centers in American society, because we live in the era of globalization and destabilization economically and otherwise, and outsourcing is taking place. Therefore, when you go back to the part of the country that we live in the Rust Belt, which at one time was the breadbasket of American society, but now after these large structures, your GMs, your Fords, your Chryslers have moved out from these areas. We no longer have the tax base that can fund an effective and solid educational system. Hence, you have the construction of a two-tiered educational force between the haves and the have-nots.
This has been happening for quite some time now.
Absolutely.
Even when you had cities who were better able to economically compete based on their tax base, they still were not getting a certain amount of education. I think that it's very interesting. Again, we live in a country where a state can tell you, can tell a city that, it can tell a school that we do not owe you a quality education, just a free one. And that the state will win. The state actually won that case.
That's
in the state of Michigan, they said, we do not owe you a quality education, just a free one.
That's amazing.
So it's like, as long as you have a school door open, it's on you whether or not you learn. That's not our problem.
Let's unpack that.
I do want to go to a comment that we did get. It says, so long as the majority of the wealth is controlled by the minimalist amount of people, the government will be swayed away from the majority in favor of the ones buying the government's loyalty. I think this person has a good point.
Absolutely. That's a great point. That's a great point there. And so it goes as it relates to this item of net neutrality. If you are a person who is wealthy, if you have a six-figure income, then this might not affect you to the same degree that it will affect working class and poor people.
Right.
Now, Candice, this alludes to the creation of a potentially growing digital divide between the haves and the have-nots once again. So what does that do then for the young child that's in school who does not have a connection to the internet? They have to take, their family rather has to take care of the basics: food, clothing, and shelter.
I think it does what it's meant to do.
Above and beyond being connected to the internet or not.
I think it does what it's meant to do, though. I think a huge part of this is you have a certain percent of the population who are in control and like being in control, who want you uninformed, who want you uneducated, who want you distracted from the many things that they're doing to take away your rights.
Okay.
And so once you introduce things like the repeal of net neutrality, and you have these people who are saying, no, we'll be honest, we promise, or the only law the only rule that they have standing in their way of slowing down or speeding up a stream, or basically removing you from even seeing it at all, is saying, we put the disclaimer up there that we won't do business with them or you won't see it. And again, I've said the states with the attorney generals who plan to file a suit against this. That's New York, that's Washington State, Illinois, Iowa, Oregon, and Massachusetts. If I did not name your state, call your attorney general and ask your attorney general, where do they stand on this net neutrality situation, and what are they willing to do moving forward, because this affects you.
Absolutely. So Candice, with that, I got to ask you this question here. You know, sometimes I could be called a conspiracy theorist. But when we look at this topic of net neutrality, is it a small c coincidence or a big C conspiracy?
I would just say that I think that it's interesting for the past 11 months that we've had so many things that are good for the people that have been repealed, or have been attempted to be repealed, or have had wasted multiple hours in a day trying to repeal it. And I don't think this is by any coincidence. I also don't think it's by any coincidence that as these things are being repealed, or as other laws are being put in place that are not for the people, the ones who are cohorts in this suddenly resign, or they retire back to the private sector, or it's like once they've done their part, because my part was taking away this piece from you, my part was taking away this right from you, I've done my part, so I'm going back to the private sector, I've resigned, and so I don't think any of this is a coincidence, and I think the scariest thing ever is that you can have people who know what's going on and they do not sound the alarm. I think
my goodness.
Oh yeah, again, one of my favorite quotes, if you are silent about your pain, they will kill you and say you enjoyed it. And then also, also because we've had another major,
we're sadistic, we're sadomasochistic in that regard.
We've had another major resignation out of this Trump regime, if you will. All my skin folk are not my kin folk.
Oh my goodness,
so
wait a minute.
I think we just...
The sister? You talk about the sister?
I'm just saying.
Omarosa?
If you will allow me to...
go ahead.
As not just her, though. It's other people that look like you that are not like you.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I think that because we always want to say Christians, and everybody's so quick to say that this person is a Christian, and they know this and they know that. First of all, if somebody says 2 Corinthians, that's your first clue that maybe you might want to think about some things regarding what they're talking to you about.
Oh, my goodness.
And then the second thing is, since we want to keep saying we're a Christian nation and blah, 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 a tree is known by the fruit it bears. That's
Absolutely. No doubt about that.
So, and it also said, plenty of people say, Lord, Lord, I was with you. And he's like, who?
Depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I know you not.
Right. When did I see you? What?
Yes.
I don't know you. So, because the Christians do get bashed a lot. Because we're so quick to say we're in a Christian nation. But it's like, we also have to be for real.
Yes.
Everybody that says they're a Christian are not a Christian. Sometimes I'm a Christian because it'll get me elected. Sometimes I'm a Christian because if I say Jesus, you'll stop badgering me. So let's just be realistic in that.
Wow. So let me go back. You said so much in those last few minutes there. But let's go back to net neutrality, right? And the dilemma that the people are faced with, right?
Call your attorney general and see where they stand. See if they're going to file a suit.
So what, are you suggesting that we should be a committee of one, at least initially, be a committee of one? We see a problem, we see an issue, address the problem, address the issue, use our agency and whatnot, contact, in this case, the attorney general and whatnot, to get the ball rolling initially. Because one person is not going to be able to do this now. One person is not going to be able to fight this battle ultimately. So now we're alluding to the reality and the necessity of community.
Yes.
A community of action-oriented people who now are engaging the political, the economic, and the social context, if you will. But we're going to have an agenda. Oh, my goodness. I think we just said something. And speaking of that, Candice, where is our agenda?
I keep telling you because for some reason everybody can't get together and decide the agenda. So how about this? Whatever their agenda is, ours is the opposite. I just made the agenda for everybody. There you go. They want to repeal net neutrality. We don't. Bam. Agenda item. There you go. There you go.
Oh my goodness.
There's your agenda item right there. We want net neutrality.
But in all seriousness, I know we're saying this in jest. We certainly do need an agenda. We need an agenda. We do. And you know what? The older I get, man, and I start looking at our so-called leadership nationally, I say, you know what? Are they serious? Because if they were serious, they would meet with Trump. Before you debunk me, hear me out. Hear me out.
Yeah.
Any person who is a serious leader, right? Mm-hmm. A serious leader of a people. If you are a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, or if you are a senator, or whatever the case may be, right? If you are a part of the leadership of a major civil rights organization, mm-hmm. the least you can do initially is to come together, to coalesce with your brothers and sisters, hammer out an agenda, right? Submerge your egos, right? Get rid of this attitude of having big eyes and little U's and whatnot. Everybody can't be the chief. Somebody has to be the Indian or the Indians and whatnot. Hammer out an agenda and then take that agenda to Trump. Didn't Moses do that?
Right.
Didn't Moses have an agenda? What was his agenda? Let my people go. That was Moses' agenda. But he had an agenda, right? So what about our leadership in that regard? In terms of hammering out an agenda, I think they're playing games.
I do agree with the fact that they're playing games. I do agree with the fact that there should have been leadership that got together and had a conversation with him about this is what we want. And the reason I started laughing when you were saying that is because I started thinking about all of the individuals who went to go see him and was like, no, he seemed like a good dude. Like, come on now.
See, now, I'm glad you brought that up, Candice. I'm glad you brought that up because think about this now. If a person is going to engage the system, they're going to have to be very methodical. They're going to have to be very methodical. The context is very important because context dictates the interaction. So if Donald Trump calls a person into a meeting at Trump Plaza, chances are photo op. Chances are.
Well, yeah, why are you meeting at Trump Plaza?
There you go. There you go. Absolutely. And also, why are you meeting with entertainers? Why you're going to discuss the economic, the political, and the social issues that are besetting an entire community of over 45 million people, and you'll meet with a comedian. Yeah, come on now, come on now, or a basketball player or a football player. Now, I'm not decrying comedians, I'm not decrying athletes or whatnot, but can't we stay in our lane? Can't we stay in our lane and engage one another in this serious undertaking? So I think that the setting dictates the interaction, right? And so rather than meeting at Trump Plaza, why don't you meet at the White House? Right. If you're going to take the leader of the NAACP, the Urban League, NAN, the National Action Network, who else? What are some other, Rainbow Push, who else? Some other organization. You get my drift.
I got you.
So that's what I mean. So why can't we do that? If we can see this, Candice, you and I here in Flint, Michigan, little old Flint, Michigan, why can't these other people see this and then try to hammer out an agenda and take it to Trump? You might not care for his politics, you might not like him, but the guy is the president. You can at least say, okay, we have to agree to disagree and whatnot. We met with him, it's not going to work out. Let's move on. Next page. Right? What do you think?
I do agree in the fact that there should be a serious meeting held in a professional setting saying this is what we need, this is how we need to proceed, this is what works for the people.
Absolutely.
And so I think that conversation absolutely needs to be had again. And I'm really not going to knock comedians and things of that nature for the simple fact that listen, and I totally got your point about why is he choosing to meet with those people specifically. But comedians are often the pulse of what's going on. They tell jokes about what's going on. But I do get your point about that. And I think that, again, it goes back to people having to recognize their power. As we wrap up this conversation on net neutrality, I would encourage you, though, to call your attorney generals, your state attorney general, and see what their plan moving forward is regarding this. Because, again, in the state of New York, in the state of Washington, in the state of Illinois, in the state of Iowa, in the state of Oregon, in the state of Massachusetts, their attorney generals are moving forward with some court action. And so call your attorney general and see where they stand on this. And speaking of power, the Alabama Senate race. Interesting. Very. For those of you who did not keep up with that, the reason Alabama had to have a special U.S. Senate race was because Jeff Sessions, I guess, moved up in life.
Yeah, he moved up.
So, if that's how you want to look at it.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so they needed someone to replace him. And it was very interesting because they had a candidate who had these allegations lodged against him. And these were not small allegations. And I got to tell you, a lot of the entire country was watching Alabama to see, because that was going to be a telltale sign of where we really were. I mean, it was a scary thought, because I think someone tweeted, and I'm not quite sure, I can't really do a verbatim, but they said something like, Alabama, I have hope in you. And then they were like, actually, I don't. They were like, I understand the possibility of what could happen, but I hope for a different outcome.
Absolutely.
And to be honest with you, that's exactly how I felt. I'm like, I'm looking at you, I'm watching you. We see what this is. We see who supports him. We see some of the behaviors. Do not, do not, point our moral compass south, if you will.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
And as we looked at, we were watching that race that night, and we saw how the votes went. And again, I think that one of the biggest things that happened was, as we were watching who voted, how they voted.
Okay, you have to break down here.
Very interesting.
Okay.
I have it by sex and race.
Okay.
So 27% of white men voted for Jones. Let's see, 31% of white women. So that means 72% of white men voted for Moore.
Wow, 72%, you say?
72% voted for him.
Wow.
And then with white women, it looks like 63% voted for him. Breakdown for Moore. Okay. Black men, 93% voted for Jones. They had a small write-in margin, and then 6% voted for Moore.
92.
Can you believe that one?
Wow. Okay.
And then black women, 98% of them voted for Jones. And it looks like you have about 2% who voted for Moore. I just want to talk about this. First of all, I want to talk about the fact that the power of the black vote.
Yes.
And what happened when black people turned out to go vote, because we're constantly being told, and people are under the belief that your vote does not count, your vote does not matter. But I think Alabama shut that down. What happened in Alabama completely killed the thought of your vote does not matter, your voice does not matter.
Absolutely.
And then I also want to point out the fact that it kind of sheds some light on how people will vote against their own interest, if you will, to maintain the status quo. I thought that was very interesting, how many people were willing to vote for an alleged pedophile.
Absolutely.
I thought that was very interesting.
Absolutely.
That even though, and it wasn't like it was just one person, there were several people with several accounts. I just like floored. And then not only that, but how many women were still willing to vote for this man, knowing some of the violations that occur in everyday life. Yes,
absolutely. No, I think you're spot on, Candice. You know what? I think that a lot of people, when they look at the numbers, the deplorable numbers locally and nationally in terms of voter turnout in certain demographics, segments of our society, namely, we're talking about the black community here. What people say is they talk about the apathy that is running afoul, right? But you know what, I think there is a smattering of apathy here, but I think, really, to be honest with you, that people have thrown their hands up in disgust, and they're walking away from the process. I'm not advocating that kind of behavior, but I think this is what we see here. We're seeing people who don't believe in these candidates. They're walking away. They're weary as it relates to the political structure and the games that people play with passing different laws and whatnot that continually work against them, as you've been alluding to since the top of the hour. But I think that if you give us something, right? If you give the African American voter something to vote for, namely a solid candidate, and a person who has an agenda, and a person who has a proven track record, and a person who has a history with the community, and a person who's able to connect with the community. That's essential. That's essential. And he has that. He has. Now, I don't know what kind of politician he's going to turn out to be moving forward.
Right.
Because more importantly, I think that we shouldn't get caught up in personality, the cult of personality. But what we need to do is take an agenda to Mr. Jones as well.
Oh,
and hold his feet to the fire and hold him accountable. And if he does not deliver the goods, toss him out too.
Listen, everybody gets an agenda. The minute you are elected, expect an agenda. So we're not saying that, and I think that one of the things that you stated of voting for personality, I don't even think necessarily, and unfortunately, I don't know Mr. Jones and his platform and things of that nature. So I think that he did have a lot of people who were voting for him.
Yes.
But I think you had a lot of people who were voting against
he tried what
Roy Moore represented. I think you had a lot of people, again, trying to turn that compass back north.
And this is important. You're capturing the essence of this whole discussion here, because Doug Jones is an attorney at law, and he tried the killers of those 4 little girls in the 16th Street Baptist Church. And that resonated with the voting public, I believe, particularly the African American and liberal white voters.
Right. So then can we now touch on the fact that we see what happens when black people turn out to vote? Because the next day you had social media was ablaze with praising black women.
Absolutely.
Because they were saying, black women led the movement to make sure that that election went as it did. And again, social media was all kind of praise. Now let me tell you, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
We appreciate the praise.
Yes.
We appreciate the acknowledgement. But I need a little bit more than a social media hashtag.
Yes.
I need more than you to pat me on my back. I need you to pat me in my hand.
Absolutely.
At this point, what does that mean for us economically? Now that you see that we are a force in this country, what does that mean for us socially? What are you going to do other than go, good job for voting?
Good job.
Now that you see that we are voices to be heard in the black community, and of course we see this all the time where people pander to the black community. I'm not saying that's what Mr. Jones said. I'm just saying in general, where people pander for the black vote. And it's like, if time and time again we're pulling through and these things are happening because black people are getting out to vote, what happens after that? I mean, we can't settle for continuing to be hashtags and getting social media glory, if you will. We need something beyond that. Now we need to have some economic demands. Now we need to say, can some of our corner stores be owned by us? Can some of our hair stores be owned by us? Can, where are we at in small business terms? Where are the dollars as far as home loans? Where, where are we in real talks of economics in this country? Where are we with that now?
No, I agree with you. And I would look at this from a twofold fashion. First, with the Democratic Party leadership.
Hi, Leela. Hi, Jasmine. Facebook. Sorry.
Hello. Hey, y'all. So, what does this say? What message, more importantly, does this send to the Democratic Party leadership locally and nationally? When you have, it's fair to say in hands down fashion that African American women are the most consistent and the most loyal demographic to the Democratic Party. Period. What does that message send? What kind of message does that send to the Democratic Party leadership? What do you think?
Gosh, Vic, what are you trying to do?
They voted for Hillary Clinton, right? Black women voted for Hillary Clinton at what clip? Was it 93% or something like that?
Yes.
In that ballpark? And now, what was the percentage once again as it relates to this election?
I think what it goes back to is requirements.
Okay.
I think we need to require more than a hashtag and social media praise. At this point, it needs to be, forget the seat at the table. It seems as though we're bringing the table.
Absolutely.
So you come have a seat and talk to us.
He would have lost without y'all. He would have lost without that demographic. No, hands down.
Right.
And I think that you captured the essence of it too. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. Let's go back to the Democratic Party leadership. They must reconnect with their constituency across the board. Not only the black voting class, but the white voters, Latino voters, millennials, you name it. They better reconnect with those different groups, because what I sense, and you see, I'm sure you see this too, beneath our social landscape is bubbling a movement of sorts. I see it slowly coming together. People are tired of being played like they're political chumps and whatnot.
Right.
People are tired of being taken for granted and whatnot. People are tired of the Democratic Party leadership thinking and knowing, well, we can depend on them. We don't have to go to Flint, have to go to Detroit. We don't have to campaign in their area. They're going to come out anyway.
Listen, I'm so glad you said that. And before I get to my point, I want to say hi to Sheree, Koya, and Nicole. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for everybody joining us on Facebook. But I do want to touch on that point, because working in that process, I know for a fact that if they consider you a safe district, they will not put any money or manpower into that district. And that's been one of the things that has been truly frustrating. Is you want support from people, you want support for your party, but it's just like, and I'm saying on both ends.
Sure, absolutely.
They won't if they consider you a safe district, then it's like we don't really need to. But it's unfair then. If you don't even think I'm worth a little bit of manpower, a little bit. You're consistently counting on me to get you there. I think that again, there needs to be more of a requirement at this point from not only black women but black men, not only from black people, but again, from those who vote liberal, from white people, from Hispanic people, from Asian people, for those who vote for these parties, and we keep pulling through for them time and time again. I think that we need to require more. It can't just be I see you during election time or I see you during a town hall. I think that there needs to be more of a reinvestment from them into the community. I think that we need to require that. I think that as these laws are made, we need to show up. I cannot express to people enough how important it is that you show up, that you go to your state capitol, that you attend some of the sessions, or whether it be Senate or whether it be the House of Representatives. I cannot express enough how much you need to go to city council meetings. I think school board meetings for sure.
Oh, no doubt about that.
I think all politics are local, so at every level, you need to be in attendance. They need to see your face. They need to know that, hey, at this point, we are very, very politically aware. We understand what's going on. At this point, we understand our power. And so,
absolutely,
requirements are so important. Like you said, having that agenda, that stuff is so important.
Absolutely.
Because when the conversations happen behind the closed doors, or when it's time to vote, before they press those buttons, they're going to think, my butt might not be sitting in this chair anymore the next time if I don't properly represent their interests. Regardless to if what works for my community is popular or not, you need to represent the people that sent you there to represent them.
No doubt about that.
And so I think at this point, when we have things that happen, like they happened in Alabama, you have a right to say, now come sit at my table and let me explain to you what I need to see for
now
me.
That the rabbit has the gun, it's not so much fun when the rabbit has the gun, right?
Right.
No, I agree with you. I think that it is a necessity.
We do have a call-in number. I know some people are asking for it. 810-259-9789. 810-259-9789. Welcome, Monica. Welcome, Casey.
Yeah, it's a necessity that we embrace our agency. There's no question about that, because human nature.
Welcome, April.
Human nature tells me that if we don't, they're going to take it. They're going to continue to take us for granted, and they're going to continue to try to play us like political chumps. No question. Let me just share something I heard today. It floored me. Right. I want to get your feedback on this one, and our callers and listeners as well, viewers as well.
Yeah, if you guys type a comment, we can see it. We will read it. I won't necessarily say your name. If you put don't say my name, but I will read your comment.
Absolutely.
And again, that number is 810-259-9789. 810-259-9789. And Paul might have to come here to work that phone.
No doubt. Yeah. But earlier today, I was listening to a news show, right? And there was a lady. She's African American. She's a leader in the Democratic Party. Okay. And she openly shared this, and it really floored me. She was sharing that in the most recent election, she volunteered to work with the Clinton camp, and this is in Detroit. And she was saying that there was a group of persons who helped out. However, get this, Candice. She was saying that the campaign that was run was so, let me use the right word, not dictatorial, but they ran the show. People from the Clinton camp ran the show to the extent that they told them what they could say and what they could not say. Oh, I want to put the needle back on that one. They told them, they dictated to them, these African American persons who were volunteers helping out the Clinton camp. Right. They told them what they could say and what they couldn't say when interfacing with the public. But get this, here's the kicker. She went on to mention that BET specifically came to the headquarters to interview black volunteers who were working on this campaign. And guess what BET was told? The leaders of the Clinton campaign told BET, nope, you can't do that interview. Now, what's your take on that? See, this is what I'm talking about, being played like political chumps. What do you think about this?
My take on that, just based off what you described, because I didn't.
I heard it.
Right.
I heard
just my take
on a major news outlet.
Right. My take on that, just based off what you said to me, it goes back to requirements. And I noticed you said volunteer, meaning I don't have to be here. So again, that's when that negotiation process happens. That's when that, if you come here, you come to my city, I help you navigate. So then we come up with how this works.
Absolutely.
I think again, there's so much power and authority that's given away that you allow someone to come in and tell you what to do. It's
Absolutely.
like that's like you coming to my house.
Hello. That's the whole point.
And telling me you're not going to take your shoes off. But my response to you is going to be, you don't have to take them off, but you can leave them on outside my door.
Absolutely.
Meaning you and them can go.
Hello.
So I just...
That's the point of the whole story, right? Because I remember going back to the election, there was weeks leading up to the actual election day. There was virtually no presence. There was virtually no presence from the Democratic Party up and down the I-75 corridor, extending from Detroit to Southfield to Pontiac to Flint to Saginaw. I'm sorry.
I think that the big reason for that is, as we've stated, is because we are considered safe areas. And so when you're considered a safe area, you oftentimes will not see certain people knocking doors or certain people making rounds because they assume and expect you to vote for them just based off the fact that they got on the color blue.
Trust me.
That they're repping the color blue, if you will.
Candice, I'm an independent person, so I just gotta tell it like it is, like a TI is, right? But what really got me was that I remember during the campaign, once again, I heard this with my own ears. Another major medium was interviewing persons and whatnot. And there were persons from Detroit who were literally mad as all get out over the treatment that they had received, right? I think even Jesse Jackson was asking for Hillary Clinton to come to a major venue in Detroit and talk to the people because the people were primed and ready to go, and she didn't show up. She didn't come. She refused to come. I remember it. I heard it myself.
You heard her say she didn't want to come?
No. I mean, I remember I was listening to the news to this installation, right?
Right, okay.
This medium that was conveying this message out there. They were interviewing very key individuals in the Democratic Party in the Metro Detroit area. I'm sorry. I mean, there are a lot of I'm not making this stuff up.
But
I'm not making this stuff up.
I think also, though, again, when that time comes around again, the next time... now you have the power to say to the party, whether it be the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, you have the right to say to that party, where were you?
Hello.
When we called for you. What have you done for me lately? What's up?
Hello.
What is this? And somebody did have a question about how do we get involved in politics when we have been absent for so long and actually be knowledgeable about politics. I think the first thing that I would say is, again, go to these meetings. Begin to re-engage in the process. Just show up at the school board meetings, show up at the city council meetings. Again, if you can go to your state capitol, show up at session, show up at some of the committee meetings at your state capitol, if you can do that. But I think your first step would be going in there and getting a copy, because they all should have their agenda laid out, what they're going to talk about, what they're going to discuss. And so getting a copy of that agenda, listening to the meeting, and then afterwards, if you have questions, then speak with them, and speak with more than one of them. If it's city council, if it's school board, whatever, or reps, whatever it is, speak with more than one of them to try and get just a basic understanding. But the best way to become re-engaged is to show up. How you doing, Paul? How you doing, Alita? Thanks for joining us.
And that's a great point. If I could add something to that, I think that studying the political history is important as well, right? And by that, for instance, the one organization that jumps out in my mind concerning the engagement of young people is SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Going back to Kwame Ture, also known as Stokely Carmichael, and what's the lady's name? Fannie Lou Hamer, and Ella Baker, and that crew of people, and how they had developed and organized their own political groups within the Democratic Party, and they began to break away from the Democratic Party. But my point, please, trust me, folks, I'm not throwing stones at the Democratic Party. I'm not throwing stones
He's just saying that
at the Clinton camp.
That might be his party. But go ahead. You know how sometimes you can criticize your own home better. I think that might be what this is.
I couldn't have said it, but I couldn't have put it better.
Yeah, you can criticize your own home first. I got
Absolutely.
you. Yeah.
But see the point that I'm making here is that when you look at the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, right? The saying is that all politics are local. What did they do? What are they known for doing? What Ella Baker, through Ella Baker's organizational skills and leadership skills, through Fannie Lou Hamer, through Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture, H. Rap Brown, and so forth, all these different persons and whatnot. They were beating the streets. They were walking through the rural South in Mississippi and Alabama and all these different places, going door to door, educating people. They were taking part in voter education.
Right.
So that in essence, what they were doing was helping to raise the political and the social consciousness of the community. And I think we have to get back to the basics in terms of stirring the people up in that regard and capturing their imagination and engaging people. Look, Candice, there's some Fannie Lou Hamers in Flint right now. There's some Ella Bakers in Flint right now. There's some Kwame Tures in Flint right now.
I know. Kwame, what you think we're sitting here doing? Educating people. We want to thank Echo for joining us on Facebook. Once again, 810-259-9789. 810-259-9789. If you're wondering, again, what you can do and how you can be engaged in that process, show up.
Yes.
And again, the whole point of whose opinion is it anyway is absolutely to engage the community in conversations. And when we say community, because we are doing it on the internet for now, we'll see how this net neutrality works out for us. But because we mean the global community, we the community as a whole. And I think it's important that we have these kind of dialogues. And as we come to a close, we did not even get to the third part.
Wow, we didn't.
No, but that's the beautiful thing about next week.
Absolutely.
From 5 to 6 p.m. right here, live, WFOV 92.1 FM. And the call-in number is 810-259-9789. 810-259-9789. Once again, 92.1 FM WFOV. You can also catch us live on the 92.1 FM WFOV Facebook Live page. Don't forget to go to their YouTube channel, subscribe, like, comment. Join. Make sure you go to the WFOV 92.1 YouTube channel and subscribe, because who knows? We're only on for an hour, and sometimes we have after talk. So you'll have a chance to catch some of those after talks if you can go to YouTube channel, WFOV 92.1 YouTube channel, and definitely we'll be doing some giveaways on their YouTube channel as well as that comes up. We did have that whole one more conversation that we wanted to get to. We only have 5 minutes left, so it's no need to get into it now. But we did want to talk about economics. All of our topics kind of flow into one another tonight. So next week, when we're able to talk about economics, Vic, get your hand out my pocket. We will definitely discuss that next week. But again, with the whole repeal of net neutrality. I did tell you the members of the FCC and how they voted at the top of the show. If you missed that, you can go ahead and rewind that on Facebook. You can go ahead and catch it on 92.1 WFOV's YouTube page as well. Go back and see as we discuss. What do you say? YouTube, okay.
TV YouTube, okay.
Spectacle TV YouTube.
Spectacle TV.
I'm leading y'all to the wrong place. Spectacle TV YouTube, go there.
Absolutely.
And again, the states that have so far decided, their attorney generals have decided to file a lawsuit with the repeal of net neutrality is New York, New York's Attorney General, Washington State's Attorney General, Illinois, Iowa, Oregon, and Massachusetts. If I did not call your state, call your attorney general and see where they stand, where this net neutrality repeal stands. Also, congratulations to those who went out and voted.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And then also, I think just one quick thing, because you know that Congressman Conyers resigned.
That's right.
And so it's looking like we are not going to have representation in the 13th Congressional District of Detroit until November. I believe he said that election's not going to take until November. So if you guys want to make some phone calls where that's concerned, do that as well. But I think that the 13th Congressional District deserves better treatment than that. And they do not deserve to be without representation for that long amount of time. I mean, I was about to say November now, it's December. But to say that they will not have representation again until November, we're looking at almost another year. And so, again, let's stand with those in Detroit, the 13th Congressional District in Detroit, and see if we can't get them some representation much sooner than November. We want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening. We have about 2 minutes left. Any final words that you want to part with?
Yeah, I think, and I've kind of alluded to this a few minutes ago, but I think that we need to, voting is very important, but I think that we need to expand how we view voting, how we approach voting and how we use the voting process. Because in addition to voting, it suggests that the person who cast his or her vote should be knowledgeable of the issues that they're voting for, or the person they're voting for, the party they're aligning themselves with, and whatnot. So what this tells me is that voting goes hand in hand with education.
Absolutely.
So they call it voter education, and also political awareness and raising one's consciousness, because you never know what kind of outcome might result as it relates to the person who engages, these people who engage the process.
Right. And Brenda, I want to thank you for tuning in, and thank you for saying good show. We appreciate it. We appreciate everyone for tuning in and listening live. You can catch us every Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. We are here live at 92.1 WFOV. And one day you can come by the studio, because there's like this big picture screen window that you all can't see that's right in front of us. Right. So when there's not any snow on the bench.
In the summer months?
Yeah, summer months. Feel free to come by and sit on the bench and wave to us and talk to us. Definitely like the style of how the studio is set up. It gives you such room for interaction. It's kind of like Good Morning America-esque, if you will, where people can just stand there and wave.
No doubt.
And then also, if you've missed last week's show, or for whatever reason, if you didn't catch this week's show, and you are up at the 5 a.m. hour, from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., we are you can catch this show next Friday, 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. on 92.1 WFOV as well. Again, you can catch us on Facebook, you can catch us on Spectacle TV, YouTube. We want to thank you all for tuning in and listening. Thank you for your comments. Again, we are going to figure out this phone situation, so 810-259-9789. We will be back in the studio again live next week from 5 to 6 p.m. Fridays, every single Friday, 5 to 6 p.m. WFOV 92.1 FM. Whose opinion is it anyway, with Candice
and Victor.
All right, see you next week.
Luta continua.
Mics are still hot. They're off. We're still online.
Facebook, yeah.
We're still live. Radio station is on. Monitor is down. Stand by. Stream. Stream 1 has ended.